Throughout my own life and fitness journey, I have had the privilege of meeting incredible people who've shared valuable insights on mindset, health, fitness, and spiritual growth. The profound impact of this knowledge on my own life has inspired me to share it with all of you. I'm Erica Sweeney, host and founder of My Fit Tribe podcast. Join me as we explore inspiring conversations with experts, thought leaders, and everyday heroes who offer their stories and practical tips to help you on your own journey. From nutrition and fitness to mental well-being and personal or spiritual growth, our mission is to empower you to take charge of your health and live your best life. We are more than just a podcast, we are a community. Through coaching, a wealth of shared knowledge, and a strong support network, we are here to guide and encourage you every step of the way. Come be a part of our tribe. In today's episode of the My Fit Tribe podcast, I'm joined by Henry Aschauer, co-founder of Forage Kitchen. We dive into the entrepreneurial mindset, the power of whole foods and thoughtful nutrition, sustainable sourcing, and the life lessons that shape it all. Basically, all the things that light me up. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. I'm joined by Henry Aschauer, co-founder of Forage Kitchen and a champion of real, nourishing food. Henry has helped raise the bar in fast casual dining by building a business rooted in whole ingredients, balanced nutrition, and sustainable sourcing. His approach blends smart entrepreneurship with a mission to make healthy eating accessible, enjoyable, and actually doable for real people. Hi, Henry. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on, Erica.
I'm interested in having this conversation because so much of what the podcast talks about is nutrition and fitness and wellness and mindset. So today, hopefully, we can incorporate all of it in this conversation. So before we get into what Forage offers, let's talk about you and how you got into this journey of owning a restaurant.
Sure. So I went to University of Wisconsin, graduated in 2010, and my college friend and I had an idea to start a restaurant maybe junior year of college. And once we graduated and needed to get kind of real jobs, that idea faded into the background for a little bit. And then once we were established in our careers, our respective careers, we started to chat a little bit more about going back to Madison. I was in New York City, and Doug, the co-founder of Forage, and then our first restaurant, Roast Public House, was in Chicago. So we would talk kind of routinely just through Gmail chat about the idea of coming back to Madison and starting a restaurant. So moved back in May of 2012, found a location for that first idea, Roast Public House. It was a sandwich shop, craft beer bar. It was right on State Street here in Madison, Wisconsin. So there was kind of like the college bar aspect of it. And we just wanted to have like nice, hearty sandwiches for the customers coming in. And I think both of us had that entrepreneurial mindset, either growing up or kind of going through college. So it was a good fit at that point. I think it's easier to start a business potentially when you are a little bit younger and you don't have the added responsibilities that you may have when, I'm 37 now. I've got a house and a mortgage and a wife and 2 kids. And there's just a lot that could hamper your kind of dive into entrepreneurship. Not to say that that's not the right decision at any stage of one's life. But yeah, when we were 24, we were kind of able to figure everything out in the restaurant at that point and just work however long we needed to work. If people called out, we would go into the restaurant and kind of do whatever, bartending, working in the kitchen, serving, whatever was really needed. So we're able to learn a lot on the job at that point, and just really fell in love with the industry, fell in love with being able to meet people, meet regulars, meet new people coming into Madison for maybe they were visiting their children that went to the University of Wisconsin, and just that aspect of hospitality was something that once you kind of get into it, a lot of people can feel addicted by the ability to just maybe change somebody's day a little bit by just having a really good experience at your restaurant.
When you went to college, did you get a degree in business or did you work in the restaurant? I mean, that's a big jump to all of a sudden be like, oh, let's open a restaurant and to do it.
Yeah, I unfortunately wasn't a business school student here at University of Wisconsin. It probably would have been a good decision. My dad was an economics professor growing up, so grew up in a household of a professor, and I think that was kind of the easy decision when I was going through college to be an economics major, and went through the econ world here at University of Wisconsin. But I do think economics is pretty similar, and I think in some schools the economics department's within the business school. So I think it provided me a good kind of overall approach for life and getting into entrepreneurship.
I remember taking an economics power lecture at 8 a.m. on Monday mornings at UW-Madison, and it was horrible. So I'm not a big fan of economics myself. But that aside, so then you jump into working at a restaurant. And I love what you say, how you pretty much had to wear hats of every role when you're opening a business. Because being a business owner myself, that plays a huge part in finding success, because you have to cover those shifts when they're not taken, and you have to know how everything works. And I don't know that everybody, or maybe every business now, it needs to start that way or does start that way, because it feels like it's almost shifted a bit. Like you always delegate it, which is good.
Yeah.
But there's a strength and an importance of really stepping into everybody's shoes so you can create that team atmosphere. Yeah.
I think that at least in the restaurant business, like it's vital to know the ins and outs, whether it's how your back of the house works with the different cooking equipment and what the restaurant's capable of. If like I come up with an idea for a new menu item and it's not, it might make sense culinarily, but the kitchen's just not able to execute that. So it's important to know what the kitchen's capable of. It's important to know what the impact on your front of house operations would be if you're trying to implement new procedures. So I do think that it's very important, at least in that early stage of gaining familiarity or domain expertise in every item of a business. And then, now we have 9 Forage Kitchen locations. So obviously I'm not like day to day working in the restaurants, or maybe that's not obvious, but I'm not like making salads at Forage Kitchen anymore. But for the first 3 years of our business, like I was making, hundreds of salads a day, and got quite good at that. So then you're able to identify the individuals that you think would be good at that when you're hiring them. But it comes a point if you do want to grow the business that it becomes pretty crucial that you are able to delegate and you are able to feel comfortable letting somebody else run with certain aspects of the business and hire the right people and give them the autonomy to feel like they can have an impact on the business themselves too, and not constantly micromanage and kind of make sure that you're signing off on every single decision. I try to sign off on like the big important decisions, obviously. I think that was definitely a point in my career that took a while, and maybe it took longer than it should have taken to be able to step back a little bit and feel comfortable with other people in the restaurant and closing and opening. Because for a while, my co-founder and I, we would be either the one opening the restaurant and then like I would be the one closing the restaurant. So we did that for a while. Once we were able to find those good managers that we felt comfortable doing those types of tasks, it just made work-life balance a lot more manageable.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't maintain that level of, like you said, micromanagement and covering all the bases. But I think when you first start off, at least for many of us, that's just what you have to do, So
I don't know. You see a lot of like chatter online these days about individuals trying to identify like a small business to buy and like buy a job or buy a business that might be doing $500,000 of EBITDA, and instead of working in a large business with a regular W-2 job and getting paid $150,000 a year. They want to trade up, have some control over their occupation, control over their career, and buy a small business and buy that cash flow. And you see a lot of these like home services businesses that are kind of sexy, where it's like plumbing or HVAC, landscaping, and it might sound good on paper, but if you have no expertise in HVAC or in plumbing or in electrical, like as a business owner, am I going to hire the firm where there's a president or the CEO of this electrical company that has like no ability to troubleshoot or like fix a roof if I'm getting a new roof and they need to come over and figure out a leak. So I think that there's this idea of owning a business without having that expertise. And I think that there's some businesses where that could work. And you could, if you're smart and you put the work in, like you can figure it out. But I think some people might get in trouble by just thinking that they can buy that cash flow.
Yeah. And you do see a lot more of the businesses that are being bought out by the bigger equity firms, which you don't have that hands-on experience. And you can see it in the service. The service isn't always there because no one's watching it all, which can be a problem in any industry. But
yeah, we've seen it, and not to like name names or anything, but there are definitely private equity companies that are coming into town and buying up some of these service companies. Like HVAC is one of them, where you just slowly start to notice service levels kind of decrease a little bit. I have a buddy that owns a dental practice here in town, and he tells me that, for a while he was having different PE firms knock on his door kind of constantly trying to buy his business. And it's a business that his father started, and then he took it over. He's a dentist. And he has seen so many of his friends in the industry sell to a private equity company and just see how that service level has decreased, and then the customers or the clients from that old dental practice will eventually go over to him because it is still like a small family-owned practice, and they know what they can expect. So the price might be super attractive for this individual that I'm talking about, but he doesn't want to see his customer base that his father kind of cultivated, and now he's continuing on, just kind of lose that customer service aspect of it too.
Yeah, that legacy. I listened to one podcast recently. They talked a bit about that, where these entrepreneurs have worked so hard for decades to build their business that they're just exhausted. So now this time when these equities firms come in, they're just tired, and they're like, well, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
And so they go ahead and sell, and then they see that exact thing happen, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And my concern is that all these small family businesses just aren't going to exist anymore because it leaves no option. So hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, it does seem like there is. I mean, like I mentioned, that there is more chatter online about buying small businesses. So I don't want it to sound discouraging for people to like identify one of those small businesses, right? Because it does seem like that it is a viable opportunity. And if it's an individual that's buying that small business as opposed to a larger conglomerate that might just be looking at pure profit, it could be more beneficial for the community. So I definitely do think that there's still some promise there.
Yeah, interesting. So how did you go then? You opened up your first business, your restaurant down on State Street. Then how did it converge into Forage?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So, like I mentioned, I was 24 when I opened the sandwich shop craft beer bar, essentially. And I think, at least personally, where I was when I was 24 compared to where I was when I was 27, 28, when I opened the first Forage location when I was 27 years old. I think young post-college graduates mature a lot in those like early, mid-20 years. So I think the sandwich shop craft beer bar matched my personality as a 24-year-old. And then as I did mature, I started to put more emphasis on what I was eating, how I was exercising, just the lifestyle that I wanted to live, and potentially a restaurant that enabled that lifestyle. I always think that it's a good position to be in as a business owner, to be like one of the core users of the product that you're trying to serve to others. So it definitely was kind of a transition in my personal lifestyle and my co-founder's lifestyle. Started to emphasize working out and just eating more healthy. But then also noticed that the customer base that we were having at that first restaurant started to change their dining habits a little bit too. So we had, I don't know, maybe 3 salads on the menu at that first restaurant, Roast Public House. And we would have a good amount of customers that would come in and they would want to modify their salad. So say it came with mozzarella cheese and cranberries and chicken, they would say like double chicken, no cranberries, sub Parmesan cheese for mozzarella. And our kitchen wasn't really set up for the output of customizable salads. And then started to notice both here in Madison, kind of consumers' preferences change a little bit towards healthy food, but then also notice some concepts kind of continue to gain in popularity outside of Madison too. And there wasn't a good kind of salad or healthy food option on State Street. So started to think that there was an opportunity there and started looking for potential real estate locations and found a good spot on State Street. Just a block down, closer to the campus, and kind of went for it.
So you're in your late 20s and you decide to be healthier. That's a step that not everybody takes to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So was there something that happened in your life that realized that what you're eating is really how you're feeling, and it made you want to change things in that respect?
There wasn't like a seminal moment
Right.
where I had this like wake up that I was treating my body poorly and I needed to eat better. I do think that you eat a sandwich, like a hearty sandwich every single day for 3 years, and you just kind of like feel that a little bit. Mm-hmm. I have always been like, I grew up playing sports. I've always been relatively active. I got into running maybe around that same time too. So I think you could notice when you eat a sandwich versus when you eat a salad. So I was probably starting to eat more salads at Roast Public House instead of the sandwiches, and just felt like that impact on my body, and then how that fueled me for a workout later in the day. But yeah, there wasn't this like tipping point where I reached a certain weight or whatever it had been. I just think it was the overall awareness of what eating healthy and eating clean food could do to your body.
And feeling better.
Totally.
So what I love about what you're saying and about what Forage is you talk about clean, whole foods. Because, I mean, kids of the 90s and 2000s grew up on McDonald's, chicken nuggets and French fries. And unfortunately, our food system is just filled with highly processed foods, which is, in my opinion, making everybody sick. So here you are with an opportunity to provide a customizable food option of whole foods. So how did you kind of narrow in, or do you want to tell our listeners exactly what Forage offers
Sure.
as far as nutritional value and options?
Yeah, we say Forage Kitchen, our main goal is just to provide real, nutritious, feel-good food. And the feel-good food is something that you kind of touched on earlier, where I eat forage most days now, usually for lunch, and I'll never have that kind of like weight or bloat after I eat a forage meal. Even if I get a grain bowl instead of a salad, I still feel like fully fueled to go on for the rest of my day, and there's no like lag time to process the meal that I just had. But yeah, stepping back to the menu, it's mostly salads and then some grain bowls too. So we have organic black rice that we use as the base for these grain bowls. That's high in fiber and then has a good protein content to it too. And then we have some plates that we introduced maybe a year ago now So they might be slightly higher in protein content, where we try to have the protein portion be a little bit greater than what you would get if you just got a salad or a grain bowl. And it's in a fast casual setting. So if I were to be working behind the line and you came in, I would kind of walk you through your entire order. If you had certain dietary restrictions, we're totally accepting of any dietary restrictions that one may have. So initially when we opened, we didn't really have that much dairy. We didn't have any gluten. But as we've kind of continued, it's been 10 years now. So as we've kind of matured, we've broadened the menu a little bit to try to attract more that would be, looking for the cheese on their salad, or wanted a ranch dressing instead of like a herbaceous vinaigrette. So we've broadened the menu a little bit, but still want to remove any of those questions that a customer may have. Try to navigate a menu to see like, oh, is this healthy? Is this healthy? So we want you to come into the restaurant and just know that whatever you're going to get is good for you.
Yeah, and real food.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your sourcing, because that's important too, where you work a lot with local farmers, and how do you do sustainability and where you access your food and all that? Yeah,
it's always it's kind of a constant battle, and I think something with business, going back to like the business side of things, it's something that as a business owner, how we source might not completely match with like my personal beliefs. Like it would be great to get 100% organic produce or 100% organic free-range meat or chicken, but that would come with a price premium that the customer just ultimately at mass isn't willing to pay. Like if our salads were $25 instead of $12, I just don't think that would be beneficial for the business. So we try to be intelligent and resourceful where we can. Now that we have 9 locations, there is a little bit of purchasing power behind the brand too. So we have more opportunities to have conversations with folks that we do want to partner with to get potentially more advantageous pricing that we can then pass on to the customer at an attractive price point. But locally here, we've worked with many farms in the past, but over maybe the last 3 years, we've kind of honed in on one farming partner called Flint Creek Farms out of Verona. So this was their 3rd growing season. They're on their path to become a regenerative organic farm here. They have 400 or so acres. So we get a bulk of our produce from them during the growing season. We're able to extend the growing season a little bit by forecasting what will sell for certain items that they can hold during the winter months, whether it's squash right now. They've also processed a good amount of tomatoes for us that they'll freeze, and then we're able to use in either our chili or like a tomato soup later in the winter months. So we're trying to extend that season a little bit as well. But they've been a fantastic partner, and it's nice that they're 20 minutes away, so we can bring the customers out to the farm and educate them about where their food's actually coming from. Because I do think that you mentioned the food system. A lot of people don't know where food comes from and the inputs that go into growing food and how difficult it is to be a farmer today. So it's great that we're able to use that as an educational piece for our customers, and they can go out and walk the fields and see the animals and see where the produce is being grown.
And have the farms be regenerative too. I mean, we hear so much about the soils, not being healthy, and it's very scary thinking about the food supply and, what has happened to all the chemicals put on the foods and happened to the soils and the environment, and that it's very overwhelming when you start to delve into it.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to go, because if you start to educate yourself about even like the first step for some of these farms to become a little bit more sustainable is growing cover crops. So there's not as much erosion if there is a heavy rainstorm. And just driving by a farm, like if you do start to go out towards, Verona, Montrose, Oregon area, and you start to go into the farm area outside of Madison, and just try to observe the differences in the farms too. You'll see like the conventional corn being grown, and then when it's harvested, then there's just bare ground, and how that soil or effectively dirt looks compared to a neighboring farm that may be organic that is growing cover crops, and just seeing how much healthier the soil looks at those farms, just passing the eye test as opposed to like knowing what's actually being grown there is pretty cool too once you start to dive into agriculture a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I could learn about that all day because I just really think there's been was mass food production, and again, the high preservatives, high processing food for decades. And I think now people are really understanding that this is affecting our health, and we need to change back to what we were doing 60 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think it's impacting our health, but then also impacting our food supply in the upcoming years too. I think it was a handful of years ago, I read something that the current food system, where they are constantly using herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers that these farms are dependent on in order to grow the foods at the outputs that they need to, that does eventually erode any sort of soil health that is in the soil. So in, say, 50 years, there's just not going to be the ability to continue to pump the fertilizers into the ground. Like the soil is just not going to be able to grow the food that we need. So there's a health aspect of it, and then there's just like a food supply to be able to feed the billions of people that we have on the
right. And
the
what are
earth.
we going to do about it?
Too.
Yeah, a little scary.
Definitely.
Oh my goodness. And now you have 9 restaurants in.
10th coming soon in Brookfield, Wisconsin, for any Milwaukee folks out there.
How has it been for you to grow restaurant by restaurant and keep expanding? Both, watching your business start from this idea into growing into this large, restaurant. What has been the challenges and what have been the rewards with it?
Yeah, lots of challenges. COVID was obviously like the biggest unforeseen challenge. I think getting into the restaurant industry, you always know that, we're a people-dependent industry, and we have some really great people, but there's just natural turnover. And if individuals are having a bad day, like you just never know that when you're going into a restaurant, like what that server, what that cook might be going through that day. So getting into the restaurant industry, that people are going to be an issue, a challenge. I think that the COVID experience was one that was difficult. I think that our food travels relatively well, so there were obviously declines in sales, but we didn't see them as significantly as some of the fine dining restaurants or more like casual sit-down restaurants probably experienced, just because I think that folks were already used to getting forage for takeout before COVID. But it was still just a difficult time period to go through. And then I mentioned earlier that kind of personal belief for sustainability and farming practices, and how you have to weigh that constantly with like business decisions and whether or not you can price things at a certain price, or if we don't want to sacrifice opinions on certain sourcing and how that impacts our income statement, right? So maybe we're not hitting the food costs that you would want for this type of restaurant segment, but it means more to us to pay a little bit more and then not necessarily pass that on to the customer. So they feel good about the food that they're eating, and we feel good about the food that we're serving. And then, in terms of the rewards, I think that it might sound bleak, but the rewards come more sparingly than the challenges too. And I don't know if you've felt that building businesses too. It's often just head down building, and you, as the president and the CEO of the company, you don't get other people like patting you on the back. They're not saying good job, but just having the fulfillment of having certain employees that have been with us since we opened. We have a kombucha production facility out in Fitchburg, so that's where we office out of. And there's an employee out there that was with us when we opened 10 years ago at the State Street location. So he's a dishwasher out there. So just seeing him on a daily basis is rewarding. And then some other longstanding employees that we've had for 5 to 7 years, and just providing that work environment. Last night I was at my son's hockey practice, and another dad came up to me because I sent out an email, and it was from my Forage email address. And I think in the signature I have like hyperlinks to Forage Kitchen, Forage Kombucha. And he came up to me and he was like, I saw that email that you sent out. Like, do you work at Forage, or do you own Forage? I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, oh, that's my favorite restaurant. Like I go to the Monona location all the time, and I go out to the Sun Prairie one. And yeah, I go out to the Old Sauk one every once in a while. And just him kind of sharing his journey. His wife's a dietitian, and he didn't necessarily eat the food that Forage sells until his wife kind of turned him on to the idea and the concept and the importance of eating that type of food. And the only reason he was made aware of it is because his wife's a dietitian, and just like the joy that he had telling me about like his excitement that he is chatting with me, and like his just enthusiasm for Forage was cool. And sometimes you get those daily rewards, and those feel really good.
Yeah, those feel like they don't come enough, right? But it's nice when you do that, that someone's really taking enjoyment out of what you do and what you have so much pride of. Let's touch a little bit on kombucha, because we hadn't talked about that yet. So you had the Forage restaurant first, correct? And then started the kombucha processing. Yep. So why kombucha? Not everybody knows what it is, and not everybody's a fan. So let's talk about both of those.
Totally. So kombucha is a ancient fermented tea. So without getting too sciencey and in the weeds in the fermentation process, it's similar to vinegar, where it has a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast that's the catalyst for fermentation. So you start out with a sugary tea, essentially, and then you add this palisyle, so that's the SCOBY, that is that symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, and that converts the sugar in that sugary tea blend to the fermented beverage of kombucha. And kombucha is one of the rare foods that still is fully fermented, and often, at least, it shouldn't be pasteurized. So there will be some larger companies that will pasteurize and then add back probiotics so they can make the probiotic claim on the label, and just to ensure kind of consistency with the product. But it is it should be a living food. So we have to ship all of the kombucha cold chain, and then it should live in the refrigerator. If you leave it out at ambient temperature for an extended period of time, the fermentation process will kick back up, because it is a living beverage, and then there'll be excess carbonation. If you open the can, it could explode a little bit. Yeah. So I was just personally interested in fermentation back when, I was 25, 26. And we were selling another local kombucha at the first Forage at the same time that I was just making kombucha at home. For your listeners that are into fermented foods, you eventually get to a point where you're making too much at your house that you can personally consume, or your household can consume. So you start to I would just bring it into the restaurant and give it to people to drink. And I forget who it was, but I think one of our employees was just wondering why we don't try to do it at the restaurant instead of buying somebody else's kombucha. And then again, just being like young and naive. Yeah, why not? So you have to apply for a variance in the food code here in Wisconsin. So that goes through DACAP, the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And again, working with a governmental body, that probably took 9 months to a year for them to review our HACCP plan in order for that to be approved. So then we could sell the kombucha at the restaurant. And we really just wanted to have a nice, refreshing beverage that was good for you, that was unique to our restaurant to hopefully attract customers and just have a unique offering. But just being in the restaurant industry for a handful of years in Madison, we would have different friends or acquaintances that were in the industry as well. And so they started asking if they could sell it at their coffee shop or restaurant or bar. So we started to self-distribute just throughout Madison and eventually started getting placement at a couple grocery stores. And then I think when we were doing a demo at Metcalfe's, one of the sales reps for one of the regional distributors was asking how it got onto the shelves, and we told him that we were just self-distributing, and then he kind of put us in contact with somebody there, and then it kind of grew from there.
And we did an episode, probably last January or February about stomach cancer.
Okay. And
how important that fermentation is to stay healthy. Do you have any knowledge about the health benefits of like kombucha or fermentation?
Yeah, not as it relates to stomach cancer necessarily, but since it is a living food and it has the probiotics in it, it has similar benefits to any fermented food or any probiotic. Like if you have a probiotic capsule that you'll see some, especially in some of the specialty grocery stores that are in the refrigerated section. Like I would always recommend getting the refrigerated probiotics instead of the ones that are shelf stable. But you're essentially getting 6 billion CFUs of probiotics within a can of kombucha. It might not be as diverse as some of those capsules that you're taking. So it is good to have a diverse amount of probiotics and cultures kind of to maintain that or help regulate your microbiome. So yeah, I think that kombucha as a kind of a daily elixir is just helpful for that microbiome.
Well, and you look at how many people drink soda.
Yeah.
I mean, soda is so bad for you. I am 3 months, 14 days, and 2 hours free of Diet Dr. Pepper. No, I don't know how much time, but I was addicted to Diet Dr. Pepper, and it has been about 3.5 months since I've had a can. And there are still days where I'm like, oh, I crave that so much, that carbonation. But having something to drink that's, again, accessible, it's got the carbonation, that's actually good for you, is really just an easy option to be able to make a healthier choice.
Totally. And I do think that we try to make our kombucha a little bit more appealing.
It's really good
to the average consumer. That might not be like the original kombucha consumer.
Right.
We were kind of deliberate in the formulation of our different flavors and just tried to make them a little bit more approachable for the average consumer. And we try to have playful packaging. Our cans are beautiful. So we get a lot of compliments on the cans themselves. So it doesn't seem like you're drinking this like voodoo, kind of nasty beverage.
I've had some kombucha that I don't like so much. And so when I've tasted that initially, I associated kombucha with that thick vinegary drink that was hard to palate. But yours is really good. It's like having a mineral water with, good flavor. And again, it's good for you.
Yep. So. Yeah, and then we also just launched a tepache line. So tepache is an ancient fermented beverage that kind of originated in Latin America. So we take the rind and the core of pineapples. That's traditionally how it was made. So if you were cutting up a pineapple for consumption, you would typically just throw away the rind and the core. But if they're grown in a way where they're not sprayed with pesticides, that those cultures that exist on the outside, or the yeast that exist on the outside of the pineapple, are actually able to ferment like a sugary water kind of base liquid. And then it has a pineapple kind of undertone to it. So we launched that maybe a year or so ago. And then we add like organic fruit juice or fruit puree as the flavoring agent with that beverage. So it might be a good option for those that have a distaste for kombucha, but still want a living probiotic full kind of beverage. It's really good.
So when you think back to yourself at age 24, did you think you would be navigating these agent fermenting secret beverages?
No, probably not. Probably not. Yeah, I've always been interested in food. I think you mentioned kind of growing up and just the ease of going to McDonald's and grabbing some food. So I was lucky to grow up in a household where my mom was, making every single dinner from scratch at home and just appreciating everything that went into those meals and just like the taste of home cooking as opposed to eating fast food or the microwavable meals that were maybe popular in some other households. So always definitely have been interested in food and like the transformation of food and flavors and layering flavors. I'm by no means a chef, but I definitely like cooking. So it's not out of the realm of possibility thinking back when I was 24 years old. But yeah, it's definitely not what I went to school for. So it is a little bit of a surprise.
Well, one thing that I like is that you keep expanding into different things, with the drinks. And with business, you have to be able to pivot, which we touched on a little bit even before the podcast. And as you mentioned, during the course of business with COVID and different things coming up, and you have to change your menu. You have to hire new people. You have to evaluate your financials. You have to look at your sourcing. I mean, it's a constant evaluation and pivoting, which can be hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have a small but pretty mighty leadership team now. So as you grow, it's not solely dependent on you anymore. So I try to find individuals that are complementary to what my potential strengths are in business. So we have our vice president of brand development has been a marketing kind of guru for 20 to 30 years. And then we have a vice president of operations that spent 30 years in kind of high growth restaurant concepts. So having them like on the team has been a game changer. And then just having either your board or just some mentors that help you kind of navigate through some challenges that come up are extremely important and highly recommended as well.
That's good advice because we don't, it's important to surround yourself or put yourself in the room with people who have done or have knowledge that you can grow from, especially when you're running a business. And I think sometimes people forget that.
Without a doubt. One
thing you mentioned too, you talked about how important it was for you to have those long-term employees. As a business owner, when we downsized, that's the one thing that I miss the most is my team, because I would go to work every day. I would see the people. We'd know about each other's lives. We would help each other in business and at home. And it was such a family away from home that, what stress can be so strong with work and being an entrepreneur. But when I didn't have that relationship anymore with my team, or didn't have the team to have a relationship with, boy, that's been the most grieved process.
Yeah. Your situation was a little bit different because it was a family business, right? So you had Jim to either commiserate with or just have conversations about business outside of the day-to-day business. If it's around the dinner table or whatnot, I'm guessing you guys would kind of continue that conversation
24/7.
So yeah, having those employees that have been with you for a long time, it's a good outlet to even just like brainstorm. I think that you lose a little bit when there's the remote or virtual kind of component to business these days too. So I think it's super important to be around people in person too, and just being able to have those serendipitous conversations, and a lot can come from that.
Yeah, things can grow organically, and it's really fun to watch the business grow and watch the team grow, and it's just a fun. But my favorite part of entrepreneurship is watching those relationships grow and being able to build something.
Totally.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what you see happening with Forage going forward. So you mentioned you're opening up your 10th restaurant in 2026.
Yep.
And that's in the Milwaukee area.
Yep.
How many restaurants do you have in the Milwaukee area now?
That'll be our fourth. So we have Milwaukee Public Market, we have Pewaukee, and then we have Whitefish Bay. Nice. So then we'll have Brookfield, so that'll be our fourth.
And Madison is unique because it is such a fitness community, right? Like you used to have the CrossFit Games here. You've got people doing the triathlons. You've got the Ironman. You've got so many people that are really focused on their wellness. How has that been to help encourage Forage to grow, being in such a wellness community?
Yeah, we definitely try to partner with, like-minded communities and try to piggyback off of other local businesses that have done a really good job of building the community. I think having gyms or yoga studios or Pilates studios as partners is really beneficial because they're able to have that community maybe a little bit more tangibly than we are as a restaurant because they have individuals kind of coming in and spending 45 or an hour intimate minutes with either the instructor, with the owner, with the restaurant. You're going through, and if you're not eating in the restaurant, you'll have a limited interaction or maybe even no interaction if you're just going in and picking up your food. So I definitely think that it's important and good for us to try to piggyback on some of those like-minded communities, wellness communities. I think that is definitely our customer, somebody that does not necessarily, you don't necessarily need to prioritize health, but be aware of health and kind of what you're putting into your body. It doesn't need to be a routine daily kind of meal. It is for me, but my meals there are cheaper than others. So it's a little bit easier for me. There's not the economic hurdle. But yeah, I think we'll continue to try to find those communities. And then ultimately we would love to be able to try to foster our own community too. And we've tried to do that in different ways. I think getting people out to the farm and doing events there has been super helpful and engaging for our customers. We were kind of unsuccessful with a run club this fall.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So we hope to start that back up in the springtime and just figure out the best way and the best practices for really launching that and kind of cultivating a good base and just continue to grow the audience there. And if it's not a run club, I do think that we'll try the run club again, but just thinking about other opportunities for folks to engage in the brand with similar mindsets.
Well, one thing I love about the fitness or the wellness community is that it is such a community. People really find each other, and it really makes everybody live a little bit better life, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's the simple things like choosing a Forage meal instead of McDonald's meal, or not everybody food preps their food and they want a healthy option with it still being convenient. And while the price point, especially with the economy, is a little tough right now, but It's still affordable and it's very good and very healthy. So it gives people, again, maybe it's not a daily thing, but it's an option to make a better choice most days, or some days, or, having that option. And when you're combining it with people who really want to live that active, healthy lifestyle, it's great to work with them.
Yeah. And I think that there's opportunity for us to create that community and then educate or kind of use the community, like you were kind of mentioning, with different recommendations, whether that is meal prep. And so maybe it's not a Forage meal, but maybe we're able to communicate, different strategies that the group may have about meal prep or eating healthy outside of the Forage restaurants.
Right.
How do you do it at home when you're busy and you have 2 kids and you get home from work?
Yeah. Well, when you have had a Forage grain bowl, then you know what's in it. Then when you're home, sometimes you have leftovers, you can throw it in and try to taste somewhat similar.
Totally.
There's one that you have that has the black bean paste.
Yeah, the Fiesta Bowl.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that one's good.
Extra chicken. Yeah. I'm getting really hungry right now. Yeah. So if people want to find you in the Madison area, what's the best way to find you? Or in even Milwaukee area too?
Yeah, just go to our website, eatforage.com. You can go over to the menu. You can check out the menu. You can go to locations and find the closest location. There's an Order Now button on the top right, I think. So that'll take you to our app, and you can place an order right there and pick it up at the nearest location. We're on the third-party delivery systems as well. But yeah, definitely prefer you to order through us as opposed to one of those. But also,
that's a good point. Yeah, because you get you lose a part of your, the fee goes off of you guys too if you order through like Uber Eats or something like that, or even Google, right?
Yeah,
I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, I'm doing we're doing the budgets for 2026 right now, and I think it's I don't know, $250,000 will probably go to third-party delivery systems next year. Yeah, it's significant. So they'll take a portion of the sale, like a flat percentage. It ranges anywhere from 20 to 30%, kind of depending on your restaurant size. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a little bit more size behind us now with 9 locations and the 10th coming. So you have a little bit more of negotiating power with some of these third-party delivery systems if you just have one. So the single mom and pop restaurant's going to be paying more to Uber Eats or to DoorDash than we will be. But it's still significant. And then that we try not to increase our prices that much on those, and they actually kind of penalize you if you do increase your prices on the third-party delivery systems. But we do a little bit, so it would be more affordable to order through our website. And then we partner with Uber Eats. They're our courier service, so they will justify the 25% kind of take rate by saying that they're the platform for discovery for your meal or for your restaurant. So if you order on our website, it's still getting delivered by Uber Eats driver, and the tracking's still through Uber Eats, but we just pay them a flat fee per delivery.
Versus a percentage.
Yep.
See, I don't think people know that. Yeah. I didn't know that. You just, if you go to Google and you think you're just getting, putting an order in, you don't realize that there's such a percentage. You're not helping those small businesses. Yeah, and it's hard because now a good portion of restaurant sales are delivery. So a lot of these restaurants didn't think about or like model what that impact would be on profitability. Right. So, obviously we still prefer an order wherever that's through, right, as opposed to no order. Right. But yeah, if 100% of our business went through Uber Eats, that would not be good. That's very interesting. But I think that's good for people to know because, again, it's all convenience, that and fast. Sure. So people just are click, click, click to get food. Yeah, and it's like we still need to be on Uber Eats and on DoorDash just because you'll have people that will be loyal DoorDash customers because they will pay whatever the monthly fee is to get free delivery. Right. Or maybe it comes with their credit card, like rewards points and stuff like that too. Sure. So it's still important for us to be on it. But right. Yeah. But it's good for people to know, for small businesses, that if you can support it by going directly through their website better than going through DoorDash, then do it. Totally. Good to promote that. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you came in today to talk about business and about Forage and the sustainability and all the things. And please keep me posted on when you do the farm tours again in the spring, because I would love to promote that and get people out there as well as myself. Sounds great. So before we wrap up, I'm going to finish by asking you the question I ask all my guests. So it's a 2-part question. Okay. First part is, if you, Henry, today could have a conversation with Henry of the past, maybe the one in junior in college when you're thinking about opening up that first restaurant or getting a little intrigued, what would you tell him? Life's hard. Life isn't fair. And there'll be a good amount of challenges in life, but they're usually short-term challenges, and you'll get through them. So now if you, Henry, today can have a conversation with your future self, you can pick 20, 30 years from now, what would you ask him, and what do you think he would say back to you? Just asking what truly brought you happiness through life. I think a lot of people in business will chase certain metrics, whether it's different KPIs or revenue number, or what a potential exit might look like, or getting the commas in your bank account, but I don't think that necessarily guarantees happiness or what is truly wealth, right? So I think asking my future self what
is most important to them at that point and what truly brings them happiness.
And what do you think kids say back to you?
Yeah, I think time with kids. I think that's when. I mean, it's tough with business because I'm always thinking about business. So I try to constantly change my mindset when I am at home and when I am with my children and with my family. But yeah, I think that the times that I've been most happy in the last handful of years is just when I've been fully in tune with my children and whatever the activity that they're doing. Well,
and I can tell you, it goes so fast.
Yeah.
You know, I guess the one regret I have is as hard as we worked, there was always that distraction of work. And, while I've made it to every single soccer game, both of us were maybe not 100% present all the time because there was so much, to worry about. So, and then all of a sudden they're grown up.
Yeah.
So got to enjoy it while you can.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate the conversation. We'll be sure to send everybody your way.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to my Fit Tribe podcast. Tune in weekly for our latest episode for more health and wellness insights and inspiration. For more information, visit myfittribe.org. Please note that the opinions and comments presented here are those of the guests and do not necessarily constitute medical advice or the opinions of My Fit Tribe. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved. This podcast is a production of My Fit Tribe, LLC. The My Fit Tribe podcast is recorded and produced by Jake Johnson at Paradigm Productions in Madison, Wisconsin. Don't forget to download, subscribe, and follow the My Fit Tribe podcast so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for your support.